Hello. I wanted to do an updated little, not really deck profile, but I wanted to do combo tutorial as well as siding patterns because I saw a lot of people asking about them. These siding patterns will be with the new list that I was talking about, where I take out the Cartesia and I take out the Magnemite for the side, and I put in the 3 nibs to the main, which makes siding in this deck a lot better. And then as for the side deck, this is the same. These two, and then the one mag comes in. Fenrir, 3D barrier, one called by, and then the last two spots is either Gamma Seal or Lancia. I'm going to go with Gamma Seal just because these basically come in against the same decks. Lunalights, this is technically for Malice, but that's not really a deck you need to be preparing for. But this can also come in against Pure Yummy and out the Herald, so just having two more outs to the Herald. Both of these are sendable off of Branded Fusion with the new target, so neither of them really has a edge in that scenario and being like more or less searchable. So it's going to be Gamma Seals for this deck profile and siding patterns. So first step, just figure out what deck you're playing against. I'll do Yummy Mitsu. I'll do the Mirror. I'll do like Canine Crystron piles, and I think that's mostly everything. So everything else is pretty standard and easy to side plan for. So against Pure Yummy, step one, outs to Herald, out to Herald, and outs to Herald. Right? 6 outs to Herald. Oh, okay. 5 outs to Herald, and then one card that's just like generically good. Once the Herald is out of the picture, the only card that they can really use to stop you is going to be things like Ash Blossom. So having called by for that is really good. So these 6 are good. You can argue you can just do these 5 and not have this. But like I said, if they don't Ash Blossom you and you out the Herald, they don't have a game plan, right? They cannot play the game anymore. So first steps first, let's look at our non-engine. I'm taking out 3 Drolls against Pure Yummy, just because against Pure Yummy, the only time you can really droll them is when they normal Cupsy level 1 or when they Striker. Doing it when they Striker is really good, doing it when they Cupsy is not that great, and doing it when they have literally any of their other starters, you lose the game, right? And even if they go normal Cupsy and they get either Quick Play or a level 1, if you droll them there, stopping them from using the Cupsy Synchro. If they have any body in hand, they can just full set up under the Droll and not really care. So this card is not really stopping them in the way you want it to. So this card comes out. Bells is part of the God combo with Nib. Bells and Nib individually are both very good against Yummy, being able to stop their synchros, being able to stop their quick play, being able to stop Marshmallow from coming back, and then just nibbing at any point before they set up Herald. If it's pure, you can know that you can nib them when they set up Herald, and then they're not going to be able to remake it unless they use Samsara. But if they show you Samsara, you'll just nib them immediately before they ever get to the Herald, right? Having these together, Yummy has no ability to play. You just wait until right before the Herald, you nib them, and then as long as they've used Minion or they don't have Quick Play, Bell will just answer either of those. If they set Quick Play and then you Bell it on your turn, they don't play the game. If they use Quick Play to try to extend, you Bell it there, they don't play the game. And then Ash is just too good. Stopping Cupsy level 1 so that they don't have access to Surprise, stopping Obedience School, stopping the Cupsy Synchro when they start with the Engage. Just a ton of reasons to keep this card in. And then Fua. Fua is a answer to Herald, because if they go normal or if they do the Engage line and you Fua them, they're not going to give you the 5 draws necessary to make Herald. And if you do it on the Engage, they're forced to give you at minimum 2 draws in order to set up anything, and they're not going to keep extending after that. So this is a Herald out in the way that doesn't let them make the Herald. So all of these are staying in. So then we only have 3. We still need to find 2 or 3 more. We go to our main deck. You're keeping in the Frixel. You're keeping in Malulu. Malulu is very good going second into a lot of matchups because unlike Lucius, where you normal him, uses effect, and then add something in weight, you can go normal Malulu and you can immediately snap with turn player priority uses effect. Even under the Herald, you'll still threaten a decent amount of their board because you go Malulu, you fuse with something in hand. The thing in the hand will get banished, but the Malulu will go to graveyard. And then between Malulu's effect and the Arthalion's effect, you'll be able to chain it whichever way you need it to be to crack the board, and then you'll still get a set, which will out the Herald. Lucas doesn't do that, so Lucas comes out. In most situations, you're taking out one of the Lucas and leaving in the Malulu, because Malulu, as well as being a starter, starts to crack boards, whereas Lucas does not crack boards. So 2 Lucas stay in. Obviously, you're leaving in Fimena. You're never taking out the Urgula. You can take out one of the Pans and just have two. Then you're going even more down on Dracotail names, which you don't really want to do. And anytime you go second, you really want to have Pan because you want to toolbox the rest of them. So having Pan in your hand is one of the ones you don't have to toolbox and you don't have to search, you don't have to Rahu. You really just want to have Pan, right? So having 3 Pans is fine. Now, in most situations, you'll be taking out one of the Rahus because Rahu is okay, but Ketu is better because Ketu is both consistency and a fusion effect and does not lock you, whereas Rahu is somewhat consistency and it's a fusion effect. It does lock you and it also requires a lot more to go right, and can only ever use 2, right? So in most situations, you'll be taking out a Rahu. However, we're citing for Pure Yummy, so we're actually going to take out a Ketu because they can purge Ketu, they cannot purge Rahu, right? And then finally, you're not taking out any of the branded engine because it's so small and you can't really take out any of these cards. So it comes down to your traps. And in almost every situation, you're just going to be taking out the Horn, right? You can take out Flame, you can take out Sting in certain matchups, like Vanquish K9, they really only have 2 spells in their whole deck. Like Malice, you don't really want to be banishing, but in most situations, you're taking out the Horn. Against Pure Yummy, there are situations where you can use a fusion effect to bounce on their turn and set a Horn, and then in your draw phase, you can Horn back a Link one. But the problem is, if you've gotten to that point and that bouncing the Link one is enough to end their the game, you've already won that game. You did not need the Horn. That could have just been a fusion effect and would have done the same thing. So that's like a best case scenario, and a worst case scenario, this card is just awful, going second. So here are your 6 and your 6 for Pure Yummy, right? Resetting the deck back to how it looks. Let's look at Mitsu Yummy. Mitsu Yummy is a little bit more difficult to side for because it's all of the aspects of Mitsu with all of the aspects of Yummy. However, siding for it is not necessarily difficult, it's just awkward because of the way the deck has changed, right? So because I'm now maining the Nibs, I don't have to take anything out for the Drolls, and vice versa. So these and these both stay because these are both very good when your opponent's just full sending. Bell is very good because it can stop a lot of the starters for both of the decks or the extenders. Ash is very good because they have so many things that you need to Ash, especially things like Herald, things like Sanji, even Ash and Cupsy because their deck is filled with a lot more inconsistency. Could work. Fuas you'll keep in just because they cannot full send into a Fua without giving you too much. So it just comes down to taking out a Lucas, taking out a Rahu, and taking out a Horn. And the only thing you're putting in is just 3 Pankratops, because again, all you need to do is out the Herald. You want a ton of hand traps to stop the deck from going off because of the deck's inconsistencies. Some hand traps will be enough to just stop them from getting to either of the engines. And then Pankratops just summoning and either hitting a back row if they haven't set up Herald or just immediately snapping on the Herald. And then the rest of this can deal with the Mitsus and the half Yummy board that they set up. For Pure Mitsu, Pure Mitsu is pretty easy to side for as well because all you really need going second is going to be the Bestials and the one Called by the Grave. Just because Called by the Grave is so good against that deck, and so are the Bestials. You're basically going to leave in almost all of your engine. All 3 of your traps actually tend to stay in against this deck, just because it's a very grindy deck, and you want to be able to go back and forth with them for a while. Having access to all 3 traps and constantly cycling them is very good for the matchup. As well, all 3 traps are very good, because in most situations where Horn is not that great, because you're putting the resource back either into the extract or to the hand. However, when you put back a Murakumo, it's not properly summoned. So if they use 1 or 2 ritual effects, and then you bounce back the Murakumo either at end phase or before they go to battle, that Murakumo is now locked in their hand, unproperly summoned. You'll have to do this in a way where they don't Magatama, they don't prayers it, but just having this as an ability is very good. And then again, still bottoming and drawing in a grind matchup is very good. I tend to take out the 3 Nibs and then one of the Charmies. It's a little awkward to have 2 Charmies, but I mean, you could technically side in like the Fenrirs or the Pankratops for these 2 Charmies if you really want to, just to, snap out things like the Futsu or like the prayers. But I do like just having a couple Charmies in just because it forces them to not go into the Rock combo, not the IP combo, not the Dynamundo combo. And at worst case, it will just upstart. But obviously, Nibiru is not good, but the Bestials and the Called By are very good, right? Just being able to snipe out the rituals before they come back and just Called Buying them when they tribute them for cost is exceptional. And that's really it for Mitsu. Mitsu is actually a very back and forth matchup for this deck. It's very skill intensive, so your best bet for that matchup is to just get a lot of games in against it and get very comfortable with it. Pure Mitsu, and then for the mirror match, it's just the Pankratops going first, or going second, I mean. You don't really want to call by any of the names in the mirror because it's a mirror that goes back and forth a lot. So called by a name actually hurts you. As well, when you go second into the mirror, or when you ever go second into Dracotail, you should almost never have called by in your deck, just because through the 3 trap cards, even if it's not flame, if we're going back and forth in a grind, or not in a grind game, in the first turn, and I use 5 mana, and you called by it, I can use any of the 3 traps to interact, and then at resolution, I can put the 5 mana you're targeting on the bottom and draw a card. I won't have my 5 mana in the loop, but I can easily get it back if I'm resolving a fusion summon. And your called by will miss. And this isn't even like baiting the flame. This can simply just bait a sting. Like I can, if your first play is normal summon, you use the hand trap, I can sting, target one of your things in the graveyard, and put the called by 5 mana on the bottom, and I still get to hold up my flame. Right? So just having called by in the mirror is never, or into Dracotail is never good going second. It's good going first, right? Because they won't have a trap card to be able to dodge when they find mana on your turn 0. So going first, sure. Not obviously not in this deck because again, same thing in the mirror. If I go first and you 5 mana and I called by it, now I don't have 5 mana. But for the mirror, it's just Pankratops. The only thing you're taking out will be Nibiru, just because this deck does not play into Nibiru, and when it does, it doesn't really hurt other than stalling the game out for a turn. So I'm not, if I play into Nibiru, it's because I'm trying to kill you, and then you nib me, and then I'm not killing you. However, we're just going to grind back and forth for another 2 turns, and I'm going to try again. So the nib isn't like super detrimental or losing the game. So you'll take out the nibs, you'll put in the Pankratops, and it's kind of the same situation as it is with Yummy. You go second, and all you need to do is summon Pankratops, target the flame, and then you're good to go. You resolve a fusion effect, you send Urgula, you pop the other trap card, and you're just in an infinitely better position when they're not flaming your fusion effects. So, same reason that you want to hit Herald is the same reason you want to Pankratops the flame. Same reason you want to Pankratops the Herald. You just resolve a fusion effect, you can start cracking the board. That's really it for siding patterns. Every other deck should be pretty easy or non-sidable. Sorry, I guess I should do Lunalights since a lot of people were asking. For Lunalights, this is important. You cannot bell their poly effect when it's brought back with the Masquerade. You can bell their wolf, but at that point they would already have had a towers, so belling doesn't really help. Ash is very good, Fua is very good, Nib's very good. You'll be siding out a Horn, you'll be siding out a Rahu, and you'll be siding out a Lucas, as well as probably a Ketu as well, I believe, right? And you'll be putting in these 2. Actually, sorry. You are not setting out the Ketu. You are just setting out the Rahu. It would just be these 2 and called by. And called by is just there to target their spell trap negate. If this was Lancia, it would be the same situation. You would put in the Lancia. Droll's very good. Deck searches a ton. Ash is very good if you hit their Silver Wolf or if you hit their what's it called? Their Perfume when they discard. Chummy's just good because that lets you draw into everything. And then Nibiru is very good against the deck because you chain Nibiru when they attempt to fuse with a Kaleido Chick copying a name. So they lose that name, and then they just banish from the graveyard, and they're only able to set up one of the towers, which is still an amount of towers, but it's a lot less than the towers in the SP and the Baguska, which is where this becomes outable. And that's really it for the siding patterns. Now we'll go into the slight combo tutorial. Combo tutorial for Dracotail is a little iffy just because this deck isn't really a deck where you combo. It's a deck where you just have to checklist what you need to do. And mostly it's just going to be checklisting fusion material, right? So I will show you the 3 combos that this deck has. Let me just get everything out just to make grabbing things easier. And then 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Just make everything a little quicker. Okay. So let me bring this in. Sorry. Okay. So most of the combos are obviously just going to be Lucas in a name or Malulu in a name. I'm going to go with Lucas just because it gives you more flexibility. So Lucas, any monster, is your most bare bones combo. You go normal Lucas, you're going to grab 5 mana, you're going to fuse 5 mana, you're going to pitch 5 mana, you're going to fuse Lucas in the name. Summon Arthalion. Arthalion's going to add back 5 mana. Lucas is going to set. You're going to get Rahu, add back, Rahu, send, and send. You're going to get Gulamel. And then you're going to have 1, 2. Your priority is always get Flame, then get Sting, then get Horn. So since we're only doing 2 here, we're getting Flame and Sting. Then you're going to go Urgula, add back 5 mana, and put himself on the bottom. Right? So now you have 2 names to bottom, 2 trap. Well, you really just bottom the spell and then put the trap back with the trap. Then you have a body, which doesn't really do anything. And then, of course, Gulamel, the actual end board for Dracotail. And then you have 5 mana with the other 3 cards in your hand. With the 2 draws, you're going to be able to fuse something. Right? Deck full of monsters. If you have spells in your hand, instead of setting the Rahu, you'll just set the Horn, and then you'll Rahu from hand. Right? Now, if we change that hand trap into any name but one of these ones, so if this hand trap is instead a Pan, the board just gets to be all 3 trap cards, right? You go Lucas, search 5 mana for Pan and Lucas, Arthalion, 1 target, 2, 3, get Rahu, get Flame, add back 5 mana, activate Rahu, 5 mana Urgula, Gulamel, and then you'll get your 2 trap cards. And then Urgula gets back 5 mana. You'll have 5 mana and still 3 cards in hand, but now you have the 3rd trap. All that is just having a name that isn't Urgula or Lucas or 5 mana. If you do have, for example, Lucas 5 mana, you'll just normal Lucas and you'll get Urgula or Pan just to have the same names in rotation and do the same combo. Now, if you have Lucas and a name and any monster, so where's that Fua? For example, like this, you'll go normal Lucas, you'll get 5 mana, you'll pitch 5 mana, you'll use the monster and the other name, you go for Arthalion, 1 target 5 mana, 2 to set. So now you have the same combo, but instead, you'll just go 1 for a spirit, and then 2 dragons for a seals, and then you'll lock yourself. Again, performing the same actions, getting this Urgula, or this Gulamel, and then Urgula 5 mana for Sting Flame. Bottom of the deck, add back to hand. So now you have the same combo, but instead of having a Blue Eyes White Dragon on your field, you have Seals. Seals can get you to Malulu to make another fusion material for 5 mana, this one that negates, or this can get you to Albaz to flex into any of your Albaz fusions. And again, all this is off of is Lucas, and then any Dracotail name, and any monster. So, and again, if this Dracotail name happens to be 5 mana, then you'll go normal Lucas and you'll grab Urgula and then 5 mana these 2, right? Same situation. And then, so all you're trying to do, again, is just run a checklist. You're trying to get 2 fusion effects to resolve, and you're just trying to get Urgula to add back 5 mana. If you can get 2 trap cards with 5 mana in hand, even if you get like nibbed, this should be enough for most decks, right? And then, if you open Branded Fusion, the Branded Fusion with any Dracotail name, I'm going to just keep using Pan because it's kind of the least useful one when comboing. So it doesn't like add any different effect by being this versus something else. So you'll go Branded Fusion, you'll use your Frixel and your Albaz, you'll summon your Sanctifier, you'll go 1, setting Rahu, Rahu for Pan, and Lucas. You'll go this, you'll go 1, target, 2, 3. You'll get Ketu and Flame. You'll add back Lucas. You'll normal Lucas. Grab 5 mana. You'll activate Ketsu. You'll grab Urgula. Pitch 5 mana. Send Lucas. Send Urgula. Summon Gulamel. Effect of Urgula, setting Sting, and then effect of Urgula, adding back 5 mana. And so now you have still 3 cards in hand. You'll have 5 mana, you'll have 2 traps, you'll have your 2 bodies, your Vanilla and your Gulamel, but more importantly is you'll have Sanctifier, and on your opponent's turn, you're going to be able to Sanctifier and then either summon your own Albaz and give them something, or you can summon Frixel, give them something, and then Frixel can summon Lucas, bouncing back Frixel, and then Lucas can search, right? So you just have, this is able to toolbox like a lot of cards out of your graveyard, very effectively. And then for the last combo, this one's a little more intensive. It's how to lock your opponent when you don't open Branded Fusion. So this lock actually doesn't work if you do open Branded Fusion. It specifically has to be if you don't open Branded Fusion. And the line requires you to have Lucas, and then any between Ketsu, because Ketsu can be any of them, Frixel, Urgula, or 5 mana, right? So let's just say, worst case scenario, our card is Frixel, right? An additional normal summon. And then you also need 1 monster, right? So you'll go normal Lucas. Lucas will grab 5 mana. You'll activate 5 mana. You'll fuse the additional name that you have with the hand trap. You'll go for Arthalion. Arthalion will add back 5 mana. And then the Frixel will set. Frixel will get you Rahu. And again, before you lock yourself, you always want to make the seals. So this for the Spirit. These 2 for the seals. So now you have seal set up. And then you'll go Rahu. You'll send 5 mana. And you'll send Urgula. And the reason why this combo could be done with Frixel or Urgula or 5 mana is because you'll go normal Lucas. If you have 5 mana, you'll grab Urgula. Rahu will send Frixel. If you have one of these in your hand, normal Lucas, get 5 mana, fuse, and then add back, and then Rahu will get whichever of these 2 you had, right? So all you need to do is end up with all 3 of these in grave before you end your turn, right? So these 2 will fuse for Gulamel, triggering the 5 mana, and then whichever of the 2 names you did not start with, so in this case it would be Urgula, right? Here you'll set Sting Flame, and then bottom deck the Urgula to add back 5 mana. Now again, in this combo, you'll have 2 cards in your hand. We just get 2 cards. Because you had to use the Lucas, the extra monster, and whichever of the name, and you got back the 5 mana, right? So now, on your opponent's turn, you're going to wait for them to make some plays, and when they have multiple monsters or multiple targets, you'll go activate seals to bounce something, right? And then you'll summon Albaz, and you'll use Albaz's effect, discarding a card. Now, if your opponent's playing a deck that is not a light or a dark deck, this does not work. However, every deck in the format, except for the mirror, has light and dark monsters that they constantly use, and you would never do this combo into the mirror, right? So you'll go ahead and discard your card for Albaz, you'll fuse, and then you'll either make Albion or Lubellion, whichever one is applicable. If it's Lubellion, you'll have to do an additional discard. If it's Albion, you will not. Let's just say it's Lubellion, just for posterities. You'll pitch 1, you'll fuse back your Light Spellcaster and your Albaz, and you'll summon Sanctifier. And now, because you didn't use Branded Fusion, you were able to make Link monsters on your first turn, which means you have this guy. So you'll go to on your opponent's turn. Once you've done all this, you'll go Resolution Effect. You'll hand them a Dragon Lock, and you'll summon to your own field a Lucaeus. You'll go Lucaeus, and you'll search a Pan. Nope, that's not Pan. Nope, it's one of these cards. You'll search a Pan, so now you have 5 mana, Pan, so that this, and this can make the Phyllis Regilius to banish whatever cards they end up setting or try to crack with. They're locked into dragons, again, which is why you would never do this into the mirror, because locking them into dragons doesn't actually matter. You'll still have Gulamel, you'll still have 5 mana, you'll still have Sting and Flame. All of this was off of the seals with 1 to 2 discards. This is the biggest combo this deck can do at the moment, prior to the release of the structure deck.